Welcome to Casual Conversations, brought to you by Momentum Ministries, helping you attain, maintain, and regain spiritual momentum. Let's join the conversation with Scott Wade, president of Momentum Ministries.
It is great to have you on Casual Conversations. Thank you for joining us today. I am Scott Wade, your host today. I'm an evangelist in the Church of the Nazarene. I write a few books. I've authored about 11 books now, and I also am the president of Momentum Ministries. Well, we have another president on with us, and it's not Donald Trump. And so I don't know whether that's good or bad, but well, I know it's good to who we have on with us today, Dr. Mark Lael. Hello, Dr. Lael. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
And our paths have crossed many different times, but we actually have been in some common places. I served a church where your dad attended in Bethel, Ohio, and you grew up in that area, didn't you?
Did, yes.
And
Yeah, Felicity, Ohio, actually. And lots of family there. There was probably times when you were pastoring 25 or so people that were actually related to me in one way or another.
yes, our best friends at the church, the Wagners, Faye Wagner is a niece, a cousin, isn't it?
Yep, she's first cousin. Yep, her
First
maiden name's
cousin.
Leah.
Yes. And so anyway, we ran into each other there. We've run into each other at different Nazarene things. And I interviewed at a church where you had pastored, and they said I couldn't quite measure up, so I didn't go there. But you leave a long shadow, I want you to know. And you've landed yourself in Lenexa, Kansas. But we're going to talk about your work with the Nazarene Foundation today. But before we do that, why don't you just kind of take a minute and introduce yourself, maybe give a testimony of faith, and just tell us about you. You've got some daughters, I think, and so I want to hear about your family too.
Yeah. So I was saved at a revival service at the Felicity Church of the Nazarene when I was just a little boy, and I could take the entire time telling about that experience and the things that happened and how the church prayed for me and led me in Christ, taught me what it's like to be a follower. It never was a big church, but it was certainly a significant church in my life. And called to preach when I was just before seventh grade. So my path has been to be a preacher that whole time. On the first day of seventh grade, I actually announced to everybody that I wanted to be a preacher, which I learned in retrospect might not have been my smartest social move in life, but it was a move that got me the nickname preacher. So,
Uh-huh.
so through high school, I'm sure there was teachers that never knew my first name was Mark because I only was called preacher from that point on.
I did not
Kind
know that.
of keeps you out of some trouble if you're wearing the title long before you ever have the right to it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, you play basketball in the Felicity High School gymnasium. Make the foul shot, preacher, preacher. And so that was my name all the way through those years. But I did go to Mount Vernon, Nazarene for 4 years, then off to Nazarene Theological Seminary, and later got a doctor of ministry from Fuller Theological Seminary. But there
You
was,
then you've pastored. You've been a preacher before you became president of the foundation.
yeah,
So
22 years. 22 years I was a pastor. I started in upstate New York in Niagara County, almost 9 years in the wonderful town of Newcomerstown, Ohio. Then I was down in Ironton first
okay.
for 3 years, and then the Fish Creek Church, which was the former Akron First Church of the Nazarene. And then I answered the phone one day, and my life changed. It was the chief financial officer of the denomination, the general treasurer. And she asked me to submit a resume for a position called the director of stewardship, which I did. Kind of funny, anybody that knows the Church of the Nazarene knows that we have 6 general superintendents, which are kind of like our CEOs of the denomination. And in that conversation, she said, the only way you can have this job is if all 6 general superintendents agree unanimously to select you.
Uh-huh.
And my response was, I said, I would be surprised if there was a general superintendent who recognized my name.
Okay.
And she said, yeah, that's true. I've asked, and they don't know who you are. But So I was totally unknown. But I
Uh-huh.
did go to be the director of stewardship, which I held for several years, even while the foundation was buying some of my time. Eventually became the executive vice president of the foundation, and then 3 years ago was elected to be the third president of the Church of the Nazarene Foundation, which is where I belong. So,
We're going to talk about the foundation, but back up a little bit. And when did you meet your wife? And tell me about your when the children came along. You've got daughters, and a little bit about your family.
so we met at Mount Vernon, pretty typical Nazarene life. Ruth was a home ec major there, and she went on to be to Ohio State to do a teaching position there while she did her master's work. And I was at seminary, and we stayed in touch. We had dated. Everybody thought we were getting married right out of college, but I was kind of a slow to pull the trigger on the question asking. But we did get married, and we've been married almost 41 years. We have five daughters along the way, and five grandchildren. And they all, right now, this is unusual. They all have moved back into Kansas area right now.
Oh, wow.
Our third daughter was in Reno, Nevada with her husband and children, and they've just relocated to Gardner, Kansas. So we have all of our children and all our grandchildren within 40 miles from us
Oh, wow.
here
That's
in
amazing.
Ottawa, Kansas, which pretty much eliminates the idea of moving back to Ohio.
Yeah.
Had you ever been out to the family farm, Scott?
Yes, I have. Uh-huh.
Not where my dad lived, but the actual farmhouse there.
Oh, no, I don't believe I did.
Built in 1872. I actually own that now. We thought we'd retire there, but there's no chance we're going back to Ohio with all the kids and grandkids here in Kansas.
Yeah, if everybody's right there, it's going to be hard to get grandpa away.
Mhm.
Well, grandma especially.
Yeah.
All right, so you say you got a phone call after you
Mhm.
served as well a pastor, and then you were in Fish Creek. Is that where you were? You got the phone call
Yes,
to go to stewardship services. I
right.
think that's when you were working with stewardship services when we first met in person. And you had visited the church there in Bethel, Ohio. Your dad was a member there, and a great, great man of God. So I have so much respect for him, and he's a big
And
influence in my life.
and I believe I recall that did you not preach my sister's funeral?
Yes,
Sister.
I did.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we had a lot of interaction throughout that period of time. She
And
died early of cancer, way too young.
you were in to help with we had Stewardship Month in January of every year. And so we were able to have you speak during that month. And so that was a great privilege for the church. Of course, everybody knew and loved you, so that they were looking forward to that. But so then after you served at Stewardship Service, what did you do there? What's that job like?
So that job was a global position actually that was assigned 8 tasks. I had 8 items on my agenda when I was hired there. One of which was raise the World Evangelism Fund, which is the nominations. At that time, it was about a $48 million fund that came in from all the churches in the form of allocations, or what we Nazarenes would have called budgets at that time. And that's a hefty goal, but we're kind of in a groove on that. It was to teach and preach stewardship. I did a lot of seminars, workshops with pastors, with laypersons, with treasurers, and tried to elevate the financial integrity and expertise of the churches. While it was a global position, 95% plus of my work was in the United States. So I worked with a lot of districts in workshop settings, and tried to work with pastors on not fearing preaching stewardship and teaching stewardship and tithe for that matter. So interesting about how pastors react to the discussion of money. One of the key things that motivated me was the survey across all denominations that most pastors feel like they talk about money way too much. But when you ask the people in the congregation and the leadership of the church, the lay leadership, they say, "Oh, we really wish our pastor would talk more about money and talk more about stewardship." So there's a perception difference there, and there's some very real common characteristics among pastors that because of the way God builds us, he there's a fear there about stepping into that world, fear that it's going to look like we're only talking about money and so forth. So I tried to bring pastors along into good, faithful discussions of stewardship. And I guess because I've held an auctioneer's license since I was 18 years old, asking for money seemed pretty natural to me. That's just what you do.
I saw a
Stand right in front of
video.
them and ask for money.
Where were you recently? I saw a video of you doing something with your auctioneer
Uh,
role. I
Probably a
forget.
district assembly
Oh
video.
yeah, I saw that video at
Mhm.
District Assembly, and you're really good. I like that.
Uh,
Tell me, stewardship, money,
mhm.
is it just a financial issue?
So if we reduce it to a financial issue, we make a big mistake because we're people and we're the church, and it takes money to operate and function and so forth. But God's got plenty of it. God can bless us with all the resources He wants to anytime He wants to. So there's nothing about the process of being generous and giving to God's kingdom and giving to the church that has very much to do with money. It has everything to do with the heart because we're motivated by the heart and we use our resources. When God blesses us with resources like money, it comes from the heart. If you ever stay up late on television and watch an old reruns of Bonanza or something, really fun to do, you'll see that a commercial will come up every once in a while, and there'll be a three-legged dog walking across the street and a mangy cat and different things, and you'll see these abused animals, and this slow music comes on, and a soft, very authoritative voice will say, "If you don't send us your money, more animals will suffer."
Hmm.
So the people that put that together, they know it's not about the money. It's not really even about the animal. It's about the heart. They're moving the heart. So for Christians, the heart and the pocketbook are very tightly connected. And we have scriptural evidence of that, and you can just see it happening. So in discipleship, when we're building Christians, when we as churches are making Christians, making the best Christians we can find, we're going to do some things. We're going to teach them to pray. You can't build a good disciple without teaching them to pray. And you're going to teach people that worship is important. You got to walk through the house of the Lord and be a part of the family of God. And you got to read the Bible. You can't build a Christian that's not studying the God's word and reading on a regular basis. But so often churches leave out the stewardship part of it. That's one of the pillars of discipleship that building a Christian works on. So you haven't built a complete Christian if they don't know that God's in charge of their money and that God is the provider of all of their resources, and God is the one who has made it possible. Even if they're working a job for their own money, God's the one who made that possible. So we don't have a complete disciple until they learn the stewardship aspect of reflecting God's generosity and trusting Him with 10% of everything they have. It's a tithe is a great principle. God invented something that anybody can do the math on. You take your paycheck and you move the decimal point over by one, and that
That's
part,
easy.
if you give that away, if you
Well,
give that away to the Lord, the 90%, He's going to take care of you on that 90% for sure. He'll help you
I
use
am
it.
so grateful that my pastor, I was saved when I was 14, Nelson Purdue, the great evangelist in the Church of the Nazarene, was my pastor before he went into evangelism. And he taught us, the church taught me to tithe. And I have never regretted. I'm so thankful. It changed my life. It really did because it was something that I never struggled with. And God has indeed blessed. We left the secular job and went into ministry, and we went from $800 a week to $125 a week pay. And I could bring Lana in here right now and she'd say, I don't know how we did it except God. God has blessed. He's faithful when we tithe. And I know that doesn't mean we got rich or anything like that, but I do know that tithing has been a wonderful spiritual experience for me. Well, we want to talk a little bit about the foundation today. You were working in stewardship, and then naturally morphed over into the foundation. I think you said you were kind of on working on a consult one word consulting you used, but but you did some things on loan, maybe. Is the
Yeah,
phrase that you
that's kind of the glorious way of reflecting on it.
use.
Uh, in 2012, so there was, the 2008, 2009 crisis happened. The denomination had a pretty significant cut in income because they changed the allocation plan and the recession that hit during that time. It really affected the church. So the operational fund, which is a global or the World Evangelism Fund, really went from about 48 million to about 38 million
Wow.
almost instantly. So, I was used to sitting around a board meeting trying to save, how can we cut $200 somewhere? Cutting 10 million is a pretty significant change. And so there was some buyouts at headquarters, and there was a reduction in the number of directors like myself. And so part of what happened there is either you got fired or you got two jobs. We're not sure who got the blessing in that, but for about 5 years, I was director of stewardship and executive vice president of the foundation. The foundation, which had previously had, those were both full-time positions. They were buying my time off of headquarters until 2017. Things had kind of rebound, and now we have both of those positions full-time again. And so I became the executive vice president full-time. And the president retired. He was an attorney, Ken Roney,
Mhm.
lived in Denver, and before that we had Mel McCullough. So that's the three that in the history of the foundation. The foundation is only 21 years old, but it has had tremendous success really in that period of time. The goal was for the foundation to get started with some denominational support, which was to run out in 2021. We actually ended that early. Grew up, left home early, I guess, graduated from high school early, whatever it was. We've been on our own for more years than that. And it kind of operates like a community foundation. So if you've been a part of a Midwest county or town that's got a community foundation, you know why people walk through that door to help with various things, for various types of gifts and charitable activity happen in that area. We are very much like a community foundation for the Church of the Nazarene. We can bless any ministry, any local church, handle funds for the schools all the time. For global missions, Jesus Film, Compassionate Ministries, undesignated funds for the denomination. Higher and higher percentage of that is going actually to local churches these days. So, in the 21-year history of the church, we started with nothing, and we now have. We're going to use some big numbers here, Scott. Don't fall out of your chair, but we have the stock market just helped us last week to exceed 150 million in management. So we have over 150 million in assets at the foundation. And that's one number to look at, but I like to look at the number of what are we actually giving away to the church. So as people die and their estates settle, and as money comes out of donor advised funds and endowments are paying out, we're writing checks to ministries. And two out of the last 3 years, we had exceeded just barely $10 million, which is kind of like a mental barrier there. Wow, we gave $10 million away. That's incredible. So we established that for a goal last year. And without one big whopper of a check, just a regular activity, last year we wrote 14.92 million
Oh, wow.
out to ministry. So a little over $1 million a month goes through the hands of the foundation. We never ask for money for ourselves. We're only helping other ministries get money, so that money flows out through them, and that's pretty significant
So,
activity.
Hi, I'm Amy. Are you ready to take the next step in your faith journey? Start Climbing with Mark is a short but powerful booklet designed to help you grow in Christ. The 16 devotions from the Gospel of Mark will help you attain, maintain, and regain spiritual momentum. Whether you're just starting out or looking for a fresh start or seeking to encourage a friend in their faith, this resource is for you. Order your copy today at momentumministries.org and let's start climbing together.
so the Nazarene Foundation flows out to Nazarene work. Is that right? Or does it go to, it's focused on denominational endeavors or local churches or things like that? It's connected to the Church of the Nazarene.
Yeah, however, we can handle things for other Christian organizations. So, in a donor advised fund, for example, if somebody's given $100,000 worth of stock away, they may want to give 80,000 of that to various Nazarene ministries, but they may also want something to go to uh, Samaritan's Purse, Wheelchairs for Africa, maybe a different denominational college that they attended. So we're happy to send it that way. We won't send it to something that Jesus wouldn't be pleased with. Excuse me. And we do have veto power on all of the donor advised funds coming out of there. But yeah, we certainly bless plenty of other ministries, and we would do a charitable trust in some of the more complicated gifts for ministries that we believe in, even if they're not 100% Nazarene.
So I met with, you told me his name a moment ago, Steve
Stephen
Lester,
Lester, yeah.
and talked to him. And I had some questions about the foundation. He works with you, and he was at an evangelism gathering that I was a part of. And I said, "Well, how do I raise these, or how do I get these funds?" He said, "You have to raise the funds. We don't raise funds, but we manage funds that you get people to donate towards your work, or people will donate money. So y'all don't really have money that you give. You just help other people give their money."
For the most part, we're not a granting foundation. So you can't log onto our website and say, hey, I've got a project. I need some money for it. Can you give me some money? It works a little different. All the ministries and churches have donors. And if you're a ministry, if somebody wants to donate $1,000 to Momentum Ministries, they just write $1,000 check and hand it to you. You don't need the foundation for that. Let's say somebody wanted to donate standing timber in Oregon to Momentum Ministries. What would your response be to that?
I'd call
Or
you.
if or if somebody wanted to donate stock, if somebody wanted to make a qualified charitable distribution from their IRA, if somebody wanted to donate a rental home in Arizona, or farmland in Kansas, or any of the more complicated gifts, we could do a charitable gift annuity that would bless Momentum. A lot of the focus is on gifts that are down the road. They're planned and deferred. That's really where our expertise is. So if somebody said, I want to make sure that Momentum Ministries has a little bit of the money that I leave behind, we work with those estate gifts and help clear those out and work with the attorneys and the executors. And often those gifts will come through the foundation. People are pretty used to doing projects for global mission and schools that way. So we can certainly make that happen as well. And we have the ability to do that with a lot of integrity. We're a fee-based organization. We don't charge your ministry. Momentum Ministries is not going to pay us anything in order to do something. But as we're managing dollars under management, we have the fees on that, and occasionally on pass-throughs. So typically our fees are 1%ish, in the 1% ballpark. So if somebody leaves that rental home in Arizona to the foundation to bless Momentum Ministries, we would have a fee for handling that at the end.
Gotcha. So you've worked with church money,
Mhm.
people in the church. What have you learned about about people of faith and money?
So rather than just the tithe, we don't handle a lot of tithe. We do some of that through donor advised funds if it's tax beneficial. But usually we're in on the larger gifts and on the estate gifts, the life gifts, the ones that most of us have a lot more than we think when we go to heaven. If we've been fortunate enough not to burn it all up with health or care costs at the end of our life, we have more than we think we have. So when people have the motivation to give something from their estate, to make a major gift, give some gold away, something, usually the first thing I hear from people is, I think the Lord is leading me to this, or I think I've heard the Lord, or God spoke to me and wants to do this. Because we are pretty tied to our money. Most of us don't wake up and look at our bank account and look at our balance sheet and what we have in our 401ks and so forth and say, to just give a bunch of this away. It usually starts with the Lord leading and making something like that happen. So we get to be involved and help people give that kind of stuff away, make those things happen. And it's usually a spiritual event, a lot more spiritual. We have, I like to say we have three major goals. We like to help people leave as much as possible to their children, leave as much, or I like to say it this way, bless their children as much as possible. That's very biblical. The Bible says that a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children and his children's children. So we want to help people bless their children as much as possible. We want to help them bless their church as much as possible. We also want to help them bless the IRS just as little as possible when they go to heaven. And that's not because we don't like America. It's just that we pay enough taxes while we're living. And there are ways that you can to do that and make it smart. I can. Some of these are just very simple, but they don't cross our minds. Let's say, for example, that you bought Apple stock in 1990, and I hope you did. Hope you bought Apple stock really early, whenever it first came out. And now you have a cost basis down here and a value up here. So you've made a lot of money on this, but you haven't realized any of it because you never sold the stock. You don't make it till you sell it. When you sell it, the government congratulates you with that on something called a capital gains tax. And so the government says, congratulations on all that money you made in Apple. Now, here's our share of it. If the Apple stock is given away and the church or the foundation sells it, there is zero capital gains tax. Now,
Wow.
how does this work out in our real lives? You could have somebody that's sitting on $100,000 worth of capital gains on a stock that is also giving $10,000 a year to their local church on tax that they've already paid money on. If they want to give us $10,000 worth of stock, and then we will liquidate that stock, wipe out the capital gains tax, we'll feed their church their tithe for the next year. And if they want to, if they really wanted to keep the stock, they can buy the stock back with the money that was going to be their tithe, that was going to be tithe in cash instead of tithe in stock. Now they still own the same amount of stock. The church still got $10,000, and the only thing that was different in that scenario is the government did not get capital gains tax on that gift. There's just so many ways that we can help make that kind of stuff happen that just makes sense, and we love doing those kind of things. Now they get more complicated too. We are a trust department for charitable trusts and gift annuities, and some of the more complicated what we call split interest gifts that happen out there to people, and we're always anxious to help people come up with those ways to do as much as they can for the church and to the benefit the church and to benefit themselves.
So I'm 67 years old, and I hope I have a good number of years left. What would you what's some advice that you'd give somebody at my stage of life?
So 67, you're gonna face in the road, providing you have some retirement funds out there, a way to get something out a little later than then. By the way, we are not financial planners. We often have meetings with individuals and couples, and they'll come in and schedule. I'll preach on a Sunday morning or do a workshop in Sunday school or with people, with senior adults, and then we set up these half-hour meetings where we talk about things. And very often people say, "Do you think I can afford to retire?" So, wait, okay, one thing I'm not is a lawyer or a financial planner or a retirement planner. I can't answer the question. Once in a while, it's pretty clear that they don't have anything and they're actually in debt. So I could answer that question. No, I don't think you're going to be able to afford to retire, but I don't. I don't do that because what we are is gift planners. So what we do is can help you make a gift in the most tax efficient way possible. So I like to stay in my lane on that. But if you came in 67 years old and said you wanted to do some things, you're a little young for a gift annuity. But we could do it. Gift annuity is a gift that is irrevocable, bypasses all your probate, and gets you interest or gets you an annuity payment for the rest of your life. Right now, we just did one for a 95-year-old, and he's getting 10.1%
Hmm.
off of his gift for the remainder of his life. And that's not a bad deal. 67, you and I are a little young for that yet. But once you hit 70 and a half, you're going to have an opportunity to do what's called a qualified charitable distribution from your IRA, which you can convert any of the 403B or 401ks and so forth into IRAs in order to make that gift happen. But that's as big of a winner as there is for anybody 70 and a half years old. By the time you're 73, you're going to have a required minimum distribution, and the qualified charitable distribution can care for that as well. But I think my number one thing I would tell any 67-year-old is that if you do not have a will or a revocable trust or an irrevocable trust in rare cases, in place, if you don't have an estate plan, if you've not left something behind that says, here's what to do with my stuff, then you are bypassing the opportunity to give anything to your church. Because it doesn't matter how involved you are in your church, if you die intestate, which means no will or no plans, a probate court judge is going to take anything that's probatable, not the stuff that's transfer upon death or POD, but anything that's in your estate that's going through probate. The probate court judge is going to look at this and probably liquidate, and he's going to divide it out to various family members according to a very rigid schedule. There is no probate court judge in America that's going to say, "Well, Scott was really involved in Momentum Ministries. I'll bet he would have wanted some of his estate to go to Momentum." And it's just not going to happen. If you want anything in your estate to go to the church, you have to do that now. It's one of the reasons we provided a free will creator. It'll create a revocable trust too, actually, online. It's a very robust tool. It's free for anybody to use. It is by no means free. We pay heftily for this tool to be on our website. But we're using a tool that's creating 4,000 wills a week across America. And it's a QR code. The link, it's just NazareneFoundation.org/wills. And anybody can do that. So we Americans, we are super blessed. We have more than anybody else, but 60% of us go to heaven without a good will in place. There is just no reason to do that. Our first recommendation is go to an attorney in your state. Second recommendation is, if you're not going to do that, use our will creator. It will pull in all the state specifics. It'll get you a set of documents, a durable power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, healthcare directive, and a will. And it'll give you instructions on how to get those signed and what to do with them. So we really encourage you to do that. If you get that one checked off, congratulations. Then you have to wait till you're a little older before things start to happen, unless you have one of those situations where you have assets that are capital gains oriented that you need to get rid of.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give you an opportunity. If there's anything that we missed talking about and you want to share that, I'll give you an opportunity to do that. But first, I want to have a word of prayer. Okay. Father, I thank you for Dr. Lael, that he's been on Casual Conversations. Thank you, Lord, for placing such a man as him in a position where he can help families, churches, the community of faith. Pray that you bless his work, his wife, his daughters, and grandchildren, Lord. I pray that you would continue to give him wisdom and great effectiveness in his work. And help us, Lord, our listeners, help us to be wise in the way we plan, in the way that we look forward to what we're going to do with the things that you have blessed us with. And so I thank you for the conversation that we've had today. And may it guide us and may it bring you glory. Amen. Okay, Dr. Lael, anything else? Tell us about your tractors, maybe. I don't know.
Well, back on the foundation and handling money, for 3 years in a row, I've had the opportunity to deliver a giant check to a local church. Two of those from anonymous donors, and that wiped out their debt entirely.
Wow.
And for the most part, those were people who have looked at their estate and thought, I'm going to leave $200,000 to my church or $500,000 to my church when I pass away, a fourth of my estate or whatever. But they kind of figured out that if they did that immediately, their church wouldn't be paying interest, or a church wouldn't be paying interest. It's not necessarily people in the church, but a church would not be paying interest. And their life is going to be the same for the rest of their life. So I would encourage listeners to think, what if I took the $100,000 I was going to leave in my estate and just gave it to the Lord now and watched it work? It is a genuine blessing. Back in April, I was on a district that you used to pastor on, and showed up on Sunday morning. I've never done it without giving the pastor a heads up. I gave the DS a heads up, but I walked in and they gave me three minutes to do a commercial. And during that 3 minutes for the foundation commercial, we marched out a check for $552,000 to wipe out that they were facing a balloon payment, to wipe out their debt. I guess I could tell you, Scott, the Lord was present. That was a real blessing. I can bring a blessing when you deliver a $500,000 check to a local church that probably is not raising even half of that on an annual basis.
Mhm.
So pretty hefty debt there. That can be a genuine blessing. But yeah, I have a few old tractors, an old hit and miss engines and lots of antique tools and particularly anvils. Those are the hobby. That's what I do for some fun time out there. So if you have anvils sitting around in your way and you keep bumping your toe on it or it's falling over off of its pedestal, let me know and I'll make sure I come get it for you.
Well, speaking of that, how can people get in touch with you and talk about the foundation?
So NazareneFoundation.org is the best place to start on that. You have all the info there. My business card, I put my cell phone out there everywhere and my email address. It's pretty easy. It's my first initial and last name, mlail at NazareneFoundation.org. And the phone number to the office is pretty straight. I don't care who has my cell phone number either, but the office comes straight to me very quickly. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for being with us. I really appreciate it. I hope we get to bump into each other soon. I'm not sure. I've exhausted anyway, my denominational things and for a while. But the
Are you
General
going up to
Assembly,
the Evangelist Gathering in Indian Lake?
yeah, I will be there. I plan on that. Are you going to be there?
No.
Oh,
I think that's what I went. I was just thinking of a denominational thing where you might be.
okay. So, you tell Stephen to tell me hi.
You'll see Stephen if you're going to any of the Trevecca things around there. So we have a wonderful team. John Twitchell out on the West Coast and Stephen down in Florida and me here in the middle of the United States. And I pretty much handle everything in Mid-America, Mount Vernon, and ENC regions. Stephen does Olivet. He's an Olivet grad, pastored for a long time on SNU and pastored on Trevecca, so he handles those. And John Twitchell lives out in San Diego County and handles everything on the left coast.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I do appreciate you being with us today, and thanks for all you do for the church, for the kingdom. God bless you, and God bless all our listeners today. And thanks for making casual conversations a part of your day.
Thanks, Scott. God bless you too.
Thanks for listening in on Casual Conversations by Momentum Ministries. Check out our website at momentumministries.org, where you will find books and other resources to help you attain, maintain, and regain spiritual momentum. God bless you and have a great day.